The whole Israelite community set out from the desert of Sin, traveling from place to place as the Lord commanded. They camped at Revidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they quarreled with Moses and said, "Give us water to drink." Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?" But the people were thirsty for water there, and they grumbled against Moses. They said, "Why did you bring us up out of Egypt to make us and our children and livestock die of thirst?" Then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What am I to do with these people? They are almost ready to stone me." The Lord answered Moses, "Go out in front of the people. Take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff with which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb. Strike the rock, and water will come out of it for the people to drink." So Moses did this in the sight of the elders of Israel, and he called the place Massah and Meribah, because the Israelites quarrelled, and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is this the Lord among us or not?"
Good morning. They don't tell us when we're doing our training that you might have to cope with lights and cameras. But here we are in Harrowby Lane. So our reading this morning comes from the Old Testament book of Exodus, written by Moses, and is part of the story of the deliverance of Israel from Egypt. And I just want to take a whistle-stop tour at some of the earlier chapters before taking a closer look at our today's reading. So the first few books describe the early life of Moses and how God chose him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. And despite his frequent reticence, Moses finally obeyed God, and with the help of his brother Aaron, met with the elders and told them God's plan to rescue the Israelites. Moses demonstrated the miraculous signs God had given him, turning the staff into a snake, turning the skin on his hands white with disease. So the people were finally convinced that God had sent Moses and Aaron. So they bowed down and worshipped God. The next chapters describe the many plagues, followed by the death of the Egyptian firstborns. Finally, Pharaoh ordered the Israelites to leave Egypt. They were to be set free, no longer slaves. However, their journey was not straightforward. God didn't take them directly to the promised land, but took them on a bit of a detour. But still, God remained with them and provided pillars of light and clouds of cover to help and protect them. So later, when they were camped, the Egyptians caught up with them. The Israelites were terrified. They called out to God, but at the same time, they criticised Moses. But Moses remained calm and he reassured them. "Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." We then read the famous story of the parting of the Red Sea as they crossed to safety. And how amazing must that have been to witness. They praised and worshipped God in song. But their worship didn't last long. The next few chapters follow a theme of encountering difficulties and problems on their journey. As they reached the oasis of Marah, they found the water there was bitter, undrinkable. At the wilderness of Sin, they were hungry with no food. Each time, the Israelites moaned and complained to Moses and Aaron. Why did God bother saving them? They were better off in Egypt. Moses turned to God, asking for help. What should they do? Each time, God responded by using Moses and providing the food and water. So now we reach today's reading. Again, there's strife on the journey. They arrive at Rephidim, and yet again, there is no water for them to drink. You'd think by now the Israelites would have got the message. God wanted to save them. He had already shown he would provide for them again and again. But guess what? Yet again, the Israelites moan and complain at Moses. Give us water to drink, they demanded. But this time, Moses rebuked them. Quiet, Moses replied. Why are you complaining against me? And why are you testing the Lord? He doesn't try and reason with them. He doesn't remind them of what God has already done for them on the journey. He doesn't despair at the situation they are in. He doesn't join in with the moaning crowd. Instead, in the middle of a desert, with no water, with a large, angry mob of people turning against him, Moses turned to God for help. As we read, then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What should I do with these people? They are ready to stone me." He told God his fears. He didn't put a shopping list of requests in. He didn't ask God how he was going to provide for them this time. He didn't ask God to quell the angry mob. Moses asked, what should he do? How should he act? What a difference we see about responding to problems, difficulties, challenges. The Israelites turned to blame and anger, making demands and using threatening behaviour. And Moses, he turns to God, calling out to God, wanting to know God's plan, God's will, trusting in God. Last week was quite a nightmare for me. The car failed its MOT, and so with the repairs and bills and so on, I ended up with a very large bill I wasn't expecting. At the same time, my boiler died. I had no hot water for a week, and I was so angry. I moaned, and as my friends will tell you, I complained at them. I made sure they knew I was not a happy bunny. My boiler was quite new. It shouldn't have broken. Why does it happen again? It's happening to me. I was going to write to the company and complain. Actually, if I'd stopped long enough to think about it, I was incredibly blessed. Yeah, blessed. I had the finances to pay for the car. The boiler was under warranty, so there was no cost to me. Numerous friends offered me the use of showers. How fortunate I was to be in this situation. But my knee-jerk reaction was to moan and to blame someone. Instead, I should have trusted in God's provision, given thanks to God that I was indeed provided for. My story is not quite the same as the Israelites' story. I'm not stuck in the middle of a desert with no water, but I did respond just like them. How do we as individuals and as a church respond in difficult times? Like now, in COVID-19. Are we moaning and attaching blame? Are we angry at others about things not happening quickly enough, having to wear a mask, fed up of the restrictions, blaming other parts of society for not complying with the rules? Or are we thanking God that we live in a country with free NHS care? That there are systems being put into place to financially support those whose jobs are crumbling away? Where we can still be church via the likes of Facebook and Zoom, where family and friends will help us with shopping and companionship over the phone. God will sometimes take us on a detour on our journey, take us to unexpected destinations and experiences, and it can be challenging and difficult. Do we moan and groan at our lot? Or do we call out to God? Do we seek God's will? Do we trust that he will provide for us?